Have you ever found yourself agonizing over a text message, rewriting it multiple times before sending? Or perhaps you've abandoned an idea you were passionate about because someone responded with subtle criticism. Maybe you've even chosen a career path not because it called to you, but because it impressed others? If any of this resonates, you're not alone. Today, we're diving into one of the most universal human struggles, our deep-seated need for approval and validation from others. This invisible force shapes our decisions, dampens our authenticity, and often leads us away from the life we truly want to live. By the end of our journey together, you'll not only understand why you seek external validation, but you'll have practical tools to break free from this pattern and reclaim your life. And the final insight I'll share might just transform how you view yourself and your relationship with others forever. Let's begin with a simple truth. Humans are social creatures. Our brains developed in tribal environments where rejection meant danger, even death. When our ancestors were cast out from their communities, they faced starvation, predators, and hostile elements alone. No wonder our nervous systems treat social disapproval as a genuine threat. But here's where things get interesting. While this need for belonging served us well for thousands of years, in modern society it's become distorted. What started as a survival mechanism has transformed into an exhausting pursuit of approval from everyone. Family members, colleagues, social media followers, and even strangers who glance at us on the street. Consider how much of your energy is spent worrying about others' perceptions. How many decisions have you altered? How many words have you swallowed? How many authentic desires have you buried? All to maintain the approval of others. The cost is enormous, yet often invisible until we take an honest inventory of our lives. Psychologist Carl Rogers, known for his work on self-concept, observed that many people develop what he called conditions of worth, internal rules about what makes them valuable based on external feedback. We learn these conditions early, absorbing messages about what makes us good or worthy from parents, teachers, and society. Over time, these conditions become so deeply internalized that we mistake them for our own values. Think about it. When you accomplish something, do you first consider how you feel about it, or do you immediately imagine how others will respond? When faced with decision, do you listen to your inner wisdom, or do you calculate which choice will earn the most approval? The Greek philosopher Epictetus recognized this tendency thousands of years ago when he said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." His words cut to the heart of our dilemma. Growth requires risking disapproval. To become who we truly are, we must be willing to disappoint others. But this is easier said than done. The fear of judgment can feel overwhelming, paralyzing us from taking authentic action. Why is this fear so powerful? Because it connects to our deepest vulnerabilities, our fears of inadequacy, unworthiness, and ultimately, of being alone. Brené Brown, whose research focuses on vulnerability and shame, describes the predicament beautifully. You cannot live a brave life without disappointing some people. Yet many of us try to do exactly that. We attempt to please everyone, to avoid any hint of disapproval, and in doing so, we sacrifice pieces of ourselves. Consider the story of Maya, a talented artist who put away her paints for 15 years after a professor criticized her style in college. When she finally returned to painting in her 40s, she realized she'd abandoned not just a hobby, but a core part of her identity. All because one person's opinion had overridden her own joy in creation. Or think about James, who pursued a career in finance despite his passion for teaching, because his family viewed education as a backup profession. 20 years later, he found himself successful by external standards, but profoundly disconnected from his work and himself. These aren't isolated stories. They represent a pattern many of us follow, subordinating our authentic desires to gain approval, only to discover that external validation never satisfies our deeper needs for meaning, purpose, and self-expression. So, how do we begin to break free from this trap? The first step is awareness. Simply noticing when you're making choices based on others' expectations rather than your own values. This might sound simple, but it requires honesty and courage to recognize how deeply validation seeking has influenced your life. Try this experiment. For one day, pause before making decisions and ask yourself, am I doing this for me, or am I doing this for approval? Notice how often your answer reveals that external validation is the primary motivator. Don't judge yourself for this. Simply observe the pattern with curiosity and compassion. Next, we need to understand whose opinions we're prioritizing. Not all external validation is created equal. There's a world of difference between valuing feedback from a trusted mentor who knows and respects your authentic self versus seeking approval from a parent who wants you to fulfill their unlived dreams, or chasing likes from strangers on social media. Make a list of the people whose opinions currently matter most to you. Then ask yourself, do these people truly see and appreciate me for who I am? Do they want what's best for me, or what's most comfortable for them? Are they living authentic lives themselves? Or are they also trapped in the validation cycle? This exercise often reveals that we give immense power to people who haven't earned it. People who may be projecting their own fears and limitations onto us. Recognizing this can be the first step toward reclaiming your autonomy. But awareness alone isn't enough. We also need to develop an internal validation system, a way of measuring our worth that doesn't depend on others' reactions. This isn't about becoming selfish or dismissing all external feedback. It's about developing a stable sense of self that can receive input without being completely defined by it. Psychologist Dr. Kristen Neff has spent her career studying self-compassion, which she defines as treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer a good friend. Her research shows that self-compassion is more stable and beneficial than self-esteem, which often depends on external validation and comparison. To develop self-compassion, try this practice. The next time you face criticism or disapproval, place your hand on your heart and say to yourself, this is a moment of suffering. Suffering is part of life. May I be kind to myself in this moment. This simple gesture activates your body's caregiving system, counteracting the threat response triggered by disapproval. Another powerful practice is to clarify your personal values, the principles that matter most to you regardless of external recognition. Ask yourself, if no one ever knew about my choices, what would still be important to me? What qualities do I want to embody even when no one is watching? What would I regret not doing at the end of my life? When you connect with your values, you create an internal compass that can guide you through the fog of others' expectations. This doesn't mean you'll never seek approval again. That's not realistic or even desirable. Rather, it means you'll recognize when validation seeking is pulling you off course, and you'll have the strength to realign with your authentic path. Let's pause here and reflect. Take a moment to consider. What one area of your life feels most controlled by others' opinions right now? What small step could you take today to reclaim some autonomy in that area? Remember, transformation happens through consistent small choices, not grand gestures. Now, let's explore some practical strategies for breaking free from the validation trap. These aren't quick fixes. They're practices that, over time, will help you build a more authentic relationship with yourself and others. First, start setting small boundaries. If you spent years prioritizing others' approval, suddenly declaring complete independence might feel impossible. Instead, begin with low-stakes situations. Maybe say no to a social invitation that doesn't interest you, or express a preference that differs from the group. Each time you honor your authentic response, you strengthen your self-trust muscle. Next, practice tolerating disapproval. This might sound strange. Why would we want to tolerate something uncomfortable? Because the fear of disapproval is often worse than the experience itself. Start deliberately doing small things that might generate mild disagreement. Share an unpopular opinion in a safe context, or something slightly outside your normal style, or make a decision without consulting everyone in your life. You'll likely discover that 1. People care far less about your choices than you imagine. 2. Those who do disapprove usually move on quickly. And 3. The world doesn't end when someone disagrees with you. This gradual exposure helps desensitize you to the fear of judgment. Another powerful practice is to notice when you're mind reading, assuming you know what others are thinking about you. Our brains are prediction machines, constantly generating theories about others' perceptions. But these predictions are often wildly inaccurate, shaped more by our insecurities than reality. When you catch yourself mind reading, everyone will think I'm incompetent if I speak up in this meeting. Pause and ask, is this a fact or an assumption? What evidence do I actually have? What other interpretations are possible? This simple reality check can prevent imagined judgments from controlling your behavior. It's also crucial to examine your relationship with social media, which has supercharged our validation-seeking tendencies. Studies show that platforms designed around likes, comments, and followers can intensify concerns about social approval, especially for those already vulnerable to external validation. Consider implementing boundaries around your social media use. Perhaps delaying posting something to see if you still want to share an hour later, or taking regular breaks to recalibrate your sense of self without digital feedback. Ask yourself, how does my mood change after scrolling? Am I sharing for connection or validation? These reflections can help you use social media intentionally rather than reactively. Now, let's address a common concern. Won't disregarding others' opinions make me selfish or inconsiderate? This fear keeps many people trapped in the validation cycle. But there's an important distinction between being authentic and being inconsiderate. Authenticity means honoring your core values and truth. It doesn't mean ignoring the impact of your actions on others. In fact, when you're living authentically, you're often more capable of genuine consideration for others because you're not constantly depleted by the effort of maintaining a false self. You can listen more deeply, connect more sincerely, and contribute more meaningfully when you're not exhausted by pretending. As philosopher Charles Taylor notes, authenticity properly understood includes recognition of our fundamental connectedness to others. The goal isn't to stop caring about anyone else's needs or perspectives. It's to find a balance where you can honor both your truth and your relationships. This brings us to a paradoxical truth. When you stop desperately seeking approval, you often become more appealing to others. People are naturally drawn to authenticity, to those who know who they are and stand firmly in their truth. Think about the people you most admire. Aren't they often those who seem comfortable in their own skin, who don't shape-shift to please everyone around them? By releasing the need for universal approval, you create space for deeper, more genuine connections with people who appreciate the real you. Yes, you may lose some relationships along the way, those built on your compliance rather than your authenticity. But what you gain in return is the freedom to attract people who resonate with your true self. Now, let's discuss what might be the most challenging aspect of this journey, facing the emptiness that sometimes emerges when you stop filling your life with validation-seeking behaviors. Many people discover that when they put down the exhausting work of managing other perceptions, they initially feel disoriented, even empty. This void is actually a crucial part of the process. It's the space where your authentic self can finally emerge, where you can ask essential questions. What do I actually want? What brings me joy? What matters to me? These questions may have been buried under years of seeking external approval, and their answers don't typically appear overnight. Be patient with yourself during this phase. It's like clearing out a cluttered house. There's a period where things look messier before they become more beautiful. Journal, talk with trusted friends, work with therapists if needed, and give yourself permission to experiment and discover what authenticity means for you specifically. As we approach the conclusion of our journey, I want to share what might be the most liberating insight of all. People are thinking about you much less than you imagine. Psychologists call this the spotlight effect. Our tendency to overestimate how much attention others are paying to our appearance and behavior. The truth is, most people are far too preoccupied with their own concerns, insecurities, and challenges to scrutinize your choices as closely as you fear. They're the stars of their own movies, just as you're the star of yours. While this might sound deflating to the ego, it's actually profoundly freeing. If others aren't thinking about you that much anyway, why sacrifice your authenticity for their imagined judgment? This realization doesn't mean no one cares about you. It simply puts others' opinions in proper perspective. It allows you to release the exhausting performance of trying to control how you're perceived, a battle that was never really winnable in the first place. So, where do we go from here? Living beyond the need for constant validation isn't a destination you reach once and for all. It's a practice, a continual choice to return to your authentic self when you notice you've drifted into people-pleasing or approval-seeking. Start by committing to small daily acts of authenticity. Express an honest preference. Create something without sharing it immediately. Make a choice based solely on what feels right to you. Take a stand for something you believe in, even if it's unpopular. Remember that authenticity isn't about never caring what anyone thinks. It's about ensuring that others' opinions have an appropriate, not an overwhelming, influence on your life. It's about developing the discernment to know whose feedback matters in which context, and the courage to stand firm in your truth even when it generates disapproval. Most importantly, be compassionate with yourself throughout this process. Seeking validation is deeply human, not a personal failing. Each time you notice yourself slipping into old patterns, simply acknowledge it with kindness and gently redirect toward authenticity. Over time, this path becomes easier to walk. As you move forward, I encourage you to reflect on this question. What might become possible in your life if you are no longer controlled by the fear of disapproval? What dreams, relationships, or contributions have you held back because they might not receive universal validation? These possibilities represent the true treasure that awaits as you free yourself from the validation trap. I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comment below. What resonated with you from this discussion? What strategies have helped you break free from seeking external approval? Your insights might be exactly what another viewer needs to hear. If you found value in this exploration, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the Wisdom of Human Nature for more content that delves into the complexities of being human. Together, we can build a community that supports authentic living and meaningful growth. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Remember, the approval you've been seeking from others was always meant to come from within. Your life is waiting, not the life others expect you to live, but the one that truly belongs to you.